One of the most outrageous and disturbing video we have seen on the internet today is a video of clergymen from Mount Kenya churches crying that NIS agents have been dispatched in their churches to try to monitor what they are preaching to the clergy and just to find out whether they are condemning the president. I have seen this video, and coming from the clergy, while they were part of the team that campaigned for William Ruto, is nothing short of betrayal. But again, what is the urgency? Why is the president feeling secure of Mount Kenya in the wake of Rigathi Gachagua impeachment? Kindly listen to this video.
Tunafikira ya kwamba kuna jama ya kunyamazisha wahubiri na pia kunyamazisha washiriki ambao wengine ni wanasiasa wenye wanatutembelea makanisani. Tumeona tukipigiwa simu na machifu, wengine wamepigiwa simu na waheshimiwa wakiulizwa watoe taarifa ambazo wale watu walitembea kanisani walikuwa wameleta. Tuliona mrorongo watu wakizuiliwa kuingia katika makanisa fulani. Kanisa mbili ambazo tulikuwa tumetembelea hatukuingia, na kulikuwa na GSU walikuwa katika ground kuzuilia tusiingie kwa makanisa. Tunaonelea kwamba rais amesema kuna uhuru wa taarifa, kuna uhuru wa speech. Na kama kuna uhuru, hatuoni sababu chief atupigie simu kutuambia tumtumie taarifa, ama mheshimiwa yeyote ile, ama kiongozi yeyote ile.
Juzi alisema kwamba ye aungi mkono mambo ya freedom of speech na worship katika Kenya. Lakini tunaona ya kwamba hii mambo haiendi vizuri. Anasema kwa mdomo, lakini huko mashinani tunaambiwa mambo mengine ya kwamba kila kanisa lazima iweze kuwa accountable katika maneno ambayo wanafanya. Watu wanakuja kutuuliza baada ni nani ambao mnakaribisha katika makanisa yenu kuja aidha katika ibada zenu. Hata wanakuja wanaketi kule nyuma watu ambao tuwajui, na tukawaambia waweze kusema majina yao, hawasemi. Baadaye wanatoka nje na kuanza kuuliza washirika au watu ambao walikuwa wamekuja huku mlikuwa mmewaita kwa nini. Kwa hivyo kuna uhuru wa wambunge kutembelea kanisa yoyote au ma MCAs, na sisi kama washirika tunahubiri injili kwa watu wote Kenya, akiwako hata rais.
Kama sasa chief anapatikana akichukua nafasi kutaka kujua kanisa ilisomwa nini, hawa wabunge pia wanataka, kama wewe ni mbunge wa area ile watu wamekuja, unapiga simu unataka kujua pastor fulani alikuwa anazungumza nini, kwa nini watu fulani walikuja kwa kanisa hii. Sasa inaonyesha ni kanisa ni kama mlango wa kanisa umefungwa na serikali, wao ndio wataamuru watu watakaye kuja kanisani.
Unapokuona waafisa wa polisi wanakuja kuangalia watu wakihubiri, wala kile tunahubiri kivile kiko, tunaona hiyo ni jambo ya kufinyiria watumishi, kwa sababu kama sisi watumishi tunafunza na tunahubiri na neno kulingana na ile neno Mungu aliweka ndani ya mtumishi. Hatuwekagi kuhubiri kenye kimeandikwa mahali, ni kile tunaomba Mungu anatuelekeza kama watumishi vile tutakayefunza watu. Kwa hivyo hatuoni haja kabisa ate kile tunahubiri ate kunaye mwingine hajakuwa, kwa hiyo anakuja kuangalia. Ni kitu yenye hawezi kusema na ni kitu hawezi kufuatilia, kwa sababu kile unanena ni kile Mungu amekupatia fursa hawa watu hivi waelekeze hivi. Kwa hivyo kuna mwaliko kama kanisa tagia mwanzo wa kanisa kuanza.
Those clergymen drawn from Kiambu churches are raising a very pertinent question. And they're saying some strange faces appear in their churches. They sit at the back. When they're given time to introduce themselves, they cannot do those introductions. The second bit of it is also MPs from those areas also send their agents in churches, and those agents are supposed to record the proceedings of those sermons just to try to filter what kind of messages the church is sending. While there could be compelling national intelligence around need for this, but again, what has caused the clamor to monitor what the clergy are saying days after the state orchestrated the removal of the deputy president. And I think this trend is not new. The other video that we were just analyzing on Monday evening was about how an MP, and we've confirmed it's Johanna Ngeno, and I think my guess was right, who went to be with the deputy president, went with him in his presidential suit in Kisumu, and some recordings were done there about the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. This church, I know very well that one of the things that have been a constant that will be said is what the churches are saying and more about it. But I think the church was the political platform for the president's entry, William Ruto's entry in Mount Kenya. The harambes that were done on those churches, and most of the messaging there were based on, there were stories on how some clergy will even receive some Sunday stipend so that they can preach the gospel of UDA and tell the congregants that William Ruto is God sent to them and is the person that was going to lead them to prosperity. But in the wake of the way things happened, I think that messaging changed. And just from the Teresia Wairimu soundbite on Sunday, when she confronted those in power by saying they have betrayed the people, the state, I think, this plea, if you try to condense that with what Teresia Wairimu, Reverend Teresia Wairimu said over the weekend, then you can see why William Ruto is in sort of panic. Now, this is an Moi era style, and everyone will understand that when you speak to senior members, we normally have senior members of our society in this channel. Sometimes they call and they say that Kitambo, even in the school, there was someone to spy for Moi. Even the area chief in the village was a spy master. In the hospital, you could be treated, and while you're being treated there, the doctor treating you is a spy master for the government. In church, you could not say things about Moi because the next day they could disappear with you. Now, what that good friend of this channel also told me was that after 1982 coup d'etat, Moi became more vicious and bit of strong on the people and never trusted people around him. And it was that time when you could say a word against Moi anywhere, then you could realize that there will be reports of disappearances. So it was riddled, that time was riddled with the disappearances and kidnappings. Now this should be an alarm to the clergy, because how about if you, what happens if you say, because I don't know, I don't think NIS is going to sue any church leaders. What I think, one thing I think I also should also be part of it, and I think that could be within their mandate. I'm not so sure that could be within their mandate. The only question is about the clamor now at the DP. That's where we'll narrow our analysis, the clamor after the DP's impeachment. But where are the National Cohesion Commission? Peace and Reconciliation and Cohesion. I think that commission is the one, if they are looking for hate speech and maybe people that are inciting the community, I think that commission would have played a better role because they will be there and they will get there in a very structured manner. But if the way these leaders have started coming out to speak, it would actually limit the freedom of expression and the freedom of worship, because some people, some congregants will fear. If there are strange faces in our churches, then these people are spying on what is being preached there. Probably some people will feel unsafe with that development and will even keep off the church. So while the spy masters could be within their right and of course within their mandate to spy on the churches and what the clergy are saying, but on some end, it is also something that will cause some sort of panic and fear. But I want to explain myself to this. Why is the Mount Kenya churches a target after the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment? Why is it becoming a target? And it's a very critical space for President Ruto. I think one thing that Kenya Kwanza appreciates is that Rigathi Gachagua was grounded in the grassroots. And he will not make, and in the way that he was grounded, if you look at the mobilization, who is in charge? Let's start there. Who is in charge? The population is church is generally the women, especially the Mount Kenya church. Church is the fabric, is the social fabric that is holding that community together. And the women are the ones in charge. So the president spoke to women groups. That's how they fished out those women groups from the church. And now that is a very critical group. One thing that he appreciates is Rigathi Gachagua's circle is really around the church. The network by the wife and all that. And in fact, looking at the way this is causing them a lot of problems is that these grassroots women are actually leading the rebellion against President Ruto. And I want to explain that. There is something that you can't wish away from. I know that different Kenyans would interpret that impeachment differently. There is a fraction of the population that will look at the magnitude of the charges and would argue on whether he was guilty or not, on the fact of guilt or innocence. There's also a fraction of the constitution that of the public that will look at the broken relationship between Ruto and Rigathi. And in fact, I want to hold there a bit. What the public, significant, those who might not have a very in-depth judgment of that impeachment will remain at the political interpretation level. And they will say, Ruto amekosana na Rigathi. Ruto alikosana na Uhuru. So, that impeachment will be understood in the context of wamekosana. Now, what do you think ideally the voters in Mount Kenya would expect? They're actually expecting a reconciliation. They're actually expecting a reconciliation. That, because Rigathi went public and apologized, saying, if I wronged you guys, then you guys, can you forgive me? So, that group, that fraction of the population would actually see rebel against Ruto on the platform of betrayal. And of course, political betrayal is something that is there in the country. It's a currency in politics. It's not something very new. But looking at how people are interpreting it, they know very well. And in fact, I can tell you, it is part of it. They're so much keen on what Mount Kenya churches are saying, because it was on those churches that William Ruto campaigned. Now, the other issue I'm seeing here, the clergy have been leading, they have emerged, and they're taking the lead role, or rather they are joining the crusade on bad governance, anti-bad governance crusade. They are leading, they are joining that movement. And so if it is about NHIF, if it is about the SHIF, if it is about the Adani, if it is about the housing levy that now the court have said is unconstitutional, is constitutional, if it is about, let's look at the issues of education funding model and all that. So the church is putting its voice in it. Now that is something that many will not really want, because I can tell you for sure, that soundbite that I've just played, even in this channel, there are people who are evangelists, there are people who are into that space. There are religious leaders here. If some religious leaders in Kiambu will raise the alarm of strange faces of NIS that are raiding their churches to muzzle them, then there will be an element of suppression. So other churches in other areas, whenever they see some strange faces, it will really be a point of what should be done. In fact, I don't think government can police the church. It is not very easy. Unlike the mainstream churches, sometimes it's easily policed because the structures are there. Some of those evangelical churches, it's not very easy to police them, because the truth of the matter here is you cannot speak about the Bible the whole day. You also have to lace your word with things that relate with the people. And the church is part of civic education. Now, church is doing that civic education, and they don't want that civic education to be done there, because there is a lot of enlightenment that come with it. The other thing I'm seeing is the fear of Gen Z revolt, because the Gen Z, apart from the Twitter, they're also finding that platform, and they're giving those platforms. They're being given those platforms. Now, those are kind of the things that are actually coming. But lastly, I think what is disturbing the president more is the issue of suppressing betrayal in the pulpit. The issue of betrayal is there. And I can tell you that the message that will move on from here is the message of betrayal. It's going to frame the public opinion on impeachment, on that Rigathi impeachment moving forward. The politics of betrayal, that you've betrayed us. So many other people look at it differently. This betrayal, while other people see that it's on Ruto had a very good chemistry with Rigathi and he betrayed Rigathi, that will not be the betrayal I'm talking about. There is a betrayal of, you promised us prosperity, but that's not what we are seeing. You're not delivering what you promised us. So the platform on which the president was voted in was on some goodies, some heaven that was coming for the people. So when the people are not seeing that heaven, that politics of betrayal is there. The other angle I'm also looking at, and if you listen to that, the members of the clergy, they're talking about chiefs. The chiefs is from the president. It falls under the provincial administrations. So those ones work under the president. They work for the president. Then they talk about MPs are also calling, asking. So what does it mean? I think one of the things happening is the government is trying to spy on Rigathi allies in the ground. Remember, there are some MPs in some areas, even this Kiambu, on how some MPs are now trying to figure out what they can tell the people. And the MPs from Mount Kenya who voted are finding it difficult a little bit to leverage and say they're part of, to defend their decisions. But that is part of what is also causing this. So they want to know, what are the people saying? Is Rigathi having, what is Rigathi doing, or what are they saying in respect to that development? Now, that is one of the factors that is also playing out keenly. And that is why they're saying, we want to know what the church is. But I think the government have had an attempt to regulate churches, and instead of sneaking and sniffing what is going on, and it will impede the freedom of expression and the freedom of worship, they would rather produce a template. I don't know whether, I'm just putting a suggestion. They will produce a template that will guide and what they think they want to be said and what should not be said. However, I am afraid they cannot be able to wipe out political emotions from the church, because it is them who took those emotions in church. They're the ones that started campaigning the pulpit. So if the pulpit has now been converted into a political theater, then I don't think they will be able to come back and police that, because they're the ones that brought it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I don't want your take on that, but I think this is something that should really disturb this country. Thank you.